This is such a fun problem, and what a neat thing the ecosphere is. I wish I had one. So here we have, and it's just going to make this whole board our huge ecosphere, okay? And inside we have shrimp. Okay, you can tell I'm like super not an artist. Here's our shrimp, right? We have algae cells, which obviously are not to scale, and we have bacterial cells. Okay, so we'll just, obviously again, not to scale. So we've got our bacteria, our shrimp, and our algae. All right, so let's just look at the metabolism of each of these. Now, the shrimp and the bacteria are both what we call heterotrophs, meaning that they get their energy from an outside source, okay? Whereas the algae can make its own food, right? So it's an autotroph because it makes its own food. All right, so let's start with the heterotrophs because they're easier. So shrimp, it has to take in some kind of carbon source, probably in the form of complex carbohydrates or whatever, but sugars basically, right? So the sugar is going to go in. This is our carbon source. So I'm just going to put a C there. That's our carbon source. Sugar is going to go in. And because they're doing cellular respiration, they also need oxygen, right? So oxygen, O2, is going to go in as well. Okay? And then in order to do their normal metabolism, they're going to use the water that's in the ecosphere in the little dome because they consume water. But remember, they're also producing water at the end of the electron transport chain. Okay, so that's a normal heterotroph. And bacteria are no different. So the bacteria also need some kind of food source. Now they can eat the shrimp's waste product, even the shrimp's body if the shrimp dies, and they can eat the algae bodies, the sugar that the algae stores inside of them. So again, they're going to need some kind of sugar carbon source, okay? And bacteria are interesting. They can actually do cellular respiration, but they can also do photosynthesis. No, I did not say that. They can do cellular respiration, but they can also do fermentation. Scratch photosynthesis. They can do fermentation. So if oxygen gets low, they can still survive just basically doing glycolysis. But they will take in oxygen if it's available. So they can take in oxygen as well. Now, if we look at algae is going to do both photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So photosynthesis, let's think about this. In order to do photosynthesis, we know the inputs for photosynthesis, right? It needs CO2, it needs H2O, and one other key component, right? It needs sunlight. So we've got to have some kind of sunshine. There's my sunshine shining. So it needs sunlight. Okay, and that's to do photosynthesis. But keep in mind, what does it output because of photosynthesis? Well, it's outputting sugar and oxygen. So it's sending out the sugar that both the bacteria and the shrimp require, and it's sending out that oxygen that both the bacteria and the shrimp need, right? So the algae actually provide everything for the bacteria and the shrimp, but algae also have to eat. So not only are they giving it off, but they're also consuming. So the sugar that's coming off is just going right back into them so that they can do cellular respiration. So they need sugar as well. And the oxygen that they are producing can also go right back into them so that they can do cellular respiration. So they're both producing it and using it. So if you look at the interconnection, this is a really cool system. So the bacteria, right, they're providing pretty much nothing to the system except that they're getting rid of waste products, but they are also producing CO2 as part of their waste. So we didn't put that in there. But as they consume the sugar, it's going to come back out as CO2, which can then go into photosynthesis. And same thing with the shrimp. I'm not going to make it too complicated because my arrows are getting crazy, but the shrimp will also produce CO2 as part of their cellular respiration. They can be taken back in by the algae. Okay, and then the algae is providing the sugar source and the oxygen for our heterotrophs, but also for itself. Does that make sense? There's a lot of interconnections here. So I'm going to ask you some questions in a minute to make sure you got all that down.